ultimately is really what the customer now demands from a product, right? What is the basic expectation from products? Addressing different customer segments. I think, there are different ways to segment your customers, right?
Okay, fantastic. Hello and welcome, Claudia, to the AIM Media House podcast Simulated Reality. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So, I think today we are going to talk about your role as a chief product officer and its role in AI innovation. And one of the things that I want to ask you is, while there are a lot of roles with regards to CDOs and CAOs, how did you end up, your career being the role of chief product officer, and then what was your journey like, and what does that translate to exactly being, at the center of AI innovation, being a chief product officer? So, yeah.
Yeah, so firstly, about how I became a chief product officer. I started out, my background is in engineering, computer science engineering. So, and my specialization was actually in software engineering and AI, so applying AI to software maintenance. That was my specialization. And I started my career in the engineering side. And my first job out of school was at Motorola, applying AI to configuration software of the GSM cellular base stations, and then also applying AI to the optimization of handover boundaries for cellular base stations. I continued to be in the engineering side until when I joined Informix. So it was relatively early in my career when I transitioned to product management side, because I wanted to be more in the really defining the product, the business strategy, versus coding. So that's how I transitioned, and it was relatively early in my career, but also in terms of how AI weaved into my career, it was on and off. Even at Informix, was applying AI for optimizing the indexing strategy and the data models for data warehousing. And there was a little bit of a lull in between until I would say around 2014 or so, when I was at Informatica, and we delivered a data security intelligence product where we applied AI for the detection of anomalous user behaviors on accessing sensitive data, and identifying the risks around sensitive data overall within the enterprise. And from there, a lot of AI applications, where after leaving Informatica and joining Oracle, I was involved in leading data services on Oracle Gen 2 Cloud, and those data services was the underlying data infrastructure for supporting various AI services, and also the usage of AI in, for example, fusion applications, right, at Oracle. And also from there, a lot of AI applications, that the products that I led at Fix, computerized maintenance management systems, where we optimize work orders, and the tasks around work orders, and the parts inventory around maintenance, and then also applying AI and edge analytics for closed loop controls in the industrial automation space. So a lot of different AI
A lot of things
applications,
coming together.
both in the data infrastructure as well as in the AI applications itself.
Product strategy has always been a role which requires kind of multiple skill sets coming together, right? As you mentioned, you were studying AI and data science. You studied software engineering and then worked on a lot of AI projects. But at the same time, you wanted to kind of sort of move into a more business strategy role. You've been a chief product officer for a while now, especially with the advent of every tech cycle, and today is Gen AI, but like 2 years before there was something else, and 2 years before something else.
Yes.
There's always been one constant, which is for you to kind of keep evolving as a role,
Yes.
right? What does that exactly mean as a chief product officer? And in a contemporary business setting, what does that exactly, in today's world, what kind of role as an AI innovator and a chief product officer do you have to undertake?
Yeah, chief product officer. At different companies have different span of controls.
Okay.
In some companies, a chief product officer is responsible for, engineering the product itself, design, sometimes also product marketing, or they could only be responsible for product management, and sometimes also on the strategy side. So it's different slices of that continuum. Usually in different companies. So with that, a chief product officer needs to represent both the product and to an extent the technology and the customer. Right? So to external people, customers, you need to represent the customer, and you also need to understand the entire, from a business product technology perspective. You need to span that and understand the evolving industry, customer, and technology trends over time.
So I think in the previous question, Claudia, you mentioned that your roles as a chief product officer meant different levels of control in different companies as well. Also, what does the role of chief product officer compared to in terms of its traditional roles, right? As compared to some of
How
the
the role evolved over time.
yeah, especially with the AI and the overall tech stack evolving
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of sense.
So I will take that as, how does the role of a product leader evolve over time? And, I do think that product management has evolved quite a bit over time in its approaches, right? And also the demands of um, how much process is you put into it based on the team, the size of the company, the maturity of the product, all of that impacts the balance between innovation and process that you put in. So um, let's start with how the role of a product leader has evolved over time. I think there are additional demands of with the move from on-prem to the cloud, where you actually with SaaS and PaaS offerings, you get a lot more transparency into how your customers are actually using your product, right? Because now you have control over all of the information about how you can essentially track how customers are using the product. So you get a lot more intelligence into that. So with that information, there's also a lot more things you can do with being a product leader, and how you can evolve the product, and how you can actually use other functions like customer success, sales, etc., to actually enable them to perform customer retention better, how to sell the product in with more agility. So all of those, I think, has provided additional tools, as well as expand and evolve the role of a product leader.
Correct. And your product, whenever you have worked as a product officer, your products have been used by a wide array of brands, right? It could be across industries and across this thing. How does your role or how does some of your work is impacted? What does that mean if there is a certain set of industry using your product and then there's a different set of industry? Also, with the evolution of AI and now with the advent of Gen AI, what does that exactly mean for you as a chief product officer and enabling your team to serve your clients better so that they can represent their brands?
In terms of addressing different customer segments, I think there are different ways to segment your customers, right? One is in terms of size, for example, SMBs, mid markets, enterprises, which they have different demands on your product and how they buy your product. So, if we talk about that type of segmentation, usually smaller customers are a lot more self-service in terms of how they purchase, as well as what they expect from the product, right? So whereas more enterprise, larger customers tend to have a lot more process in terms of purchasing the product, and the number of people involved, and the kinds of they they potentially also demand more in-person or premium support from your technical support, sales team, customer success team. So because of that, there are different approaches of how you would provide these kinds of different services, and how you include some of these capabilities as part of the product. And AI definitely helps you to provide more self-service support, technical support, customer support for those customers who like the self-service nature of product, right? So from an industry verticalization perspective, different industries verticals will also demand different levels of capabilities, and some are also a little bit more reticent in terms of adopting new capabilities, like for example cloud or even AI, and how much they actually would apply some of the automation and the recommendations that are enabled by AI. So different verticals will have more review process. So as I say, for
Yeah.
example, healthcare, pharmaceutical, life sciences will have a lot more requirements around actual human reviews versus full automation and trusting the recommendation
Yeah.
of AI. I mean, same with financial services, for example.
Okay, awesome. So, Claudia, my next question is trying to understand fundamentally how AI has changed. Or even you can bring in elements of Gen AI, but we are in still early stages, especially with regards to products and product development. But how has AI fundamentally changed product management? When we started out in the 90s, 2000s, it was all about digitizing things, bringing everything on the internet and this thing. Later on, it was all about bringing everything on mobile apps and this thing. Now, after that, it was taking a cloud first approach. Everybody wanted application to the cloud first. Now everybody wants their applications intelligent, right? So as a product manager, this I'm sure has evolved in a lot of sense. But I want to specifically ask you about that AI aspect and how that has impacted your role as a CPO.
Yeah, and ultimately, it's really what the customer now demands from a product, right? What is the basic expectation from products? Firstly, customers would expect that they can interact with the product using natural language, structured uh, language that you need to
Yeah.
work with. The other is they also demand much more intelligent support within the product itself without having to call technical support, or even when they you know need additional support, that needs to be provided in an automated way within the product. And of course, there's a lot more intelligence inside automation that they expect, and a lot more personalization where they will get recommendations about what to buy, and from prior purchase behaviors and from their prior browsing or favorites or likes. So all of that are things now that customers are demanding and expecting from products as a basic, and therefore those things you need to provide.
Fantastic. And for someone who wants to kind of get into product management and go into the role of chief product officer, right? I can imagine some of the obvious advice that you might give, considering the continuous evolution and upskilling that is needed. But what is going forward? What do you anticipate this role becoming? And if somebody wants to pursue a career in product management, especially with applications and software getting more and more intelligent, where should these professionals see themselves in the coming years? What should they be upskilling in? What should they be working on? What can overall this profession you can expect out of it?
Well, first of all, I'm very passionate about product management, and that's because I feel that as a PM, you get to understand the entire end to end about the product, right? And you touch almost every single function that's required to develop, to define the product, and to understand the market. How do you potentially sell it? All the channels, the ecosystem, all of that is part of what you need to understand as a PM, right? So that I always will I would recommend highly for people who wants to go and get into product management. But in terms of what it means in the future, I do feel that in terms of the skills that you need in the future, I think there's a lot more. Like you said initially, you need a deeper understanding of some of the technologies that are evolving, like AI, blockchain, etc., to actually enable the right capabilities within the product. It's actually not just technologies, but also the various compliance requirements. The various rules and regulations in different countries, and also what it that means for including AI technologies within the products are things around ethics and what it means to deliver trusted recommendations, trusted insights using AI, and those are things you need to be very much aware of, and the regulations around data privacy, and how AI impacts the a lot of things that we probably don't know yet today, and will evolve over time in the future. So those are things that I think PMs need to be aware of and need to continuously upskill themselves in terms of it's not just about the product and technology, but also the uh, surrounding environment, politics, geopolitical nature, and rules and regulations around that.
Thank you so much, Claudia, for making the time. And I hope you had a fun conversation. I'm sure that this will kind of shed light into some of the journey of a product manager, and especially what it entails to be a chief product officer in today's world where all applications need to be smart. So I'm sure that chief product officers need to be smarter.
Yeah, it's a lot of different aspects and perspectives that you need to be cognizant of as a product leader.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.